In the deep, cold hush beneath the world's oceans, there lives a creature so vast that the mind struggles to hold its true shape, and within that creature beats an organ so immense, so improbable, that scientists who first weighed it could scarcely believe their own instruments. This is the story of the blue whale's heart. Long before satellites mapped the seas, sailors spoke of shadows beneath their ships, shapes too large to be fish, too silent to be threat, gliding just beyond the reach of lantern light. They did not know they were passing over the largest animal ever to have lived on this earth, larger than any dinosaur that ever walked, larger than any creature that has ever drawn breath. The blue whale can stretch close to 100 feet from nose to tail, and can weigh as much as 30 adult elephants combined. And yet, for all that size, it is a gentle giant, feeding not on other great beasts, but on krill, creatures barely the length of a fingernail, consumed by the ton, strained through curtains of baleen, with a patience that borders on serenity. But it is not the length of the whale, nor the thunder of its tail, that has captured the imagination of scientists and storytellers alike. It is what lies hidden within its chest, for there, cushioned in muscle and bone, rests a heart the size of a small car, a heart so large that a grown human could, in theory, crawl through its largest blood vessels. When researchers finally recovered and preserved a blue whale's heart for study, they found it weighed nearly 400 pounds, its chambers wide enough to swallow a beach ball whole. To stand before it was, by their own accounts, to feel very small indeed. And this heart does something stranger still. Down in the deep, when the whale dives, sometimes hundreds of feet below the sunlit surface, its enormous heart begins to slow. What might beat 30 times a minute at the surface can fall to a mere 2 beats per minute in the crushing dark, conserving oxygen, stretching each breath across the long, silent descent. Then, as the whale rises again toward the light, the heart begins to quicken, faster and faster, until at the surface it beats in a great thunderous rhythm, a rhythm so powerful that, in the right conditions, it can be detected from over half a mile away, drifting invisibly through the black water like a war drum in the abyss. Imagine, for a moment, standing at that depth, no light, no sound but the crush of pressure in your own ears, and feeling that pulse move through the water. It is not so different from the ancient sailors' shadows, something enormous, alive and patient, its power hidden just out of sight, more felt than seen. Scientists believe this heart may in fact be operating near the very outer limit of what biology allows. The physics of pumping blood through a creature so large requires walls of muscle immensely thick, valves large enough to pass a basketball, and a rhythm precisely tuned. Too fast, and the heart could not fill properly between beats. Too slow, and the whale's body would starve of oxygen at depth. It is a machine balanced on the knife's edge, refined over tens of millions of years by the patient hand of evolution, and it may represent the absolute ceiling of size for any heart in any animal that could ever exist on this planet. And still, this heart works largely alone, unseen, unheard by human ears, beating on in darkness for a creature that may live 80, perhaps even 100 years, outliving generations of the very sailors and scientists who once wondered at its shadow. For most of history, no human eye ever saw this heart. It beat in secrecy, in the blue-black depths, indifferent to our wonder, needing no audience to keep its rhythm. Even now, blue whales remain difficult to study, solitary travelers, spread thin across every ocean on Earth, their populations still recovering from a century of hunting that pushed them to the very edge of extinction. What we know of their hearts comes from rare encounters, a stranding here, a carcass there, a handful of specimens preserved with enormous care and enormous machinery. Each one has taught us a little more, and each one has left us with more questions than answers. How does a heart that large sustain a body diving to such crushing depths? How does it slow so dramatically and recover so completely? The whale, it seems, holds its secrets as closely as the ocean holds the whale. Perhaps that is fitting. For all our satellites and submersibles, for all our instruments and measurements, the largest heart in the history of life on Earth still beats mostly beyond our sight, somewhere out past the continental shelf, somewhere below the last shaft of sunlight, keeping its slow and steady time in the dark. And so the blue whale continues on, as it has for millions of years, carrying within its great body a rhythm older than most of what we call civilization, patient, vast, and indifferent to the small, brief lives that pause, however briefly, to wonder at it. Somewhere below the waves tonight, that heart is beating still.